What's going on? Marksman here, and in today's video we're going to discuss delays and reverbs, how you can make your sounds sound phenomenal, huge, and have amazing depth to them, and just create a really interesting soundscape for your productions. They are such important tools in music production, so let's learn how to master them. But before we do so, please do remember to like and subscribe. It takes you 2 seconds, it's right here, and it really helps me out. I'll love you forever. Let's jump into Ableton. Here we are in Ableton, and I have the default serum settings, which is just a completely unfiltered saw wave, which sounds like this. Doesn't sound too great at all, right? It's just very basic, but we can make it sound really, really awesome using delays and reverbs. So let's bring in a delay. So in Ableton, there's a number of ones you can use. If you go to the audio effects and you go to delay and loop, you can choose the delay, the filtered delay, the grain delay, gated delay, but one of my favorites is the echo because it's got a lot of cool controls on there. So let's load it up. Now, by default, it goes to over 50%. It goes to 70% wet, which I think is a little bit too much. Let's dial it back a little bit to maybe like 30% just to kick things off. And it sounds like this, which already sounds pretty cool as it is. But this is where the magic happens, is by adding in some reverb and putting it on ping pong mode. So I'm going to put it on ping pong mode. So what that is now doing is, rather than just playing the delay like in stereo, it's going to like ping pong from each speaker. So it's going to go left, right, or right, left. Sounds like this. You can hear that's like panning between the speakers, as opposed to stereo mode, where it just kind of sounds straight down the center, okay? You can also have mid-side. So that's going to go mid, then sides, which is also a cool effect you can have. But I think ping pong is my favorite. Now, if we add some reverb to this, this is going to sound even better. So check this out. And even though this is just a basic saw wave with no filtering on, that sounds pretty cool. Where the magic really happens is in this filter section here. So what we can do is roll off some of the lows and maybe add in more highs. So what this is going to do is make the sound feel like it's getting thinner over time. So check this out. And a really important setting on delays in general is the feedback. So basically, feedback is how much of the sound is being fed back into the delay. So if it's at 0%, it's just going to play once on each side. If we put it to 100%, it will just go on forever at the same volume. At 50%, that means half of the signal is going to come back into the delay, so it will decay over time. And over 100% means that it's going to get louder. So if you automate this feedback setting, it can sound really cool. So check this out, especially combined with the reverb and filter. So check this out. So that can be something really fun to play with. Of course, you have many different types of delay setting you have. They're generally either in, you can have them in dotted, so dotted eighths, but a nice setting to use is just the 16th note. So a dotted eighth note is 3/16 notes. And you can also unlink them with this delay. So if I turn that off and put it back to 16th, I could have the left side doing dotted 16th notes, so 3/16 notes, and I could have the right side doing 6/16 notes. So check this out. Which sounds quite cool, or maybe 4 and 6. Which is pretty cool. You can also set them to have sync mode off and have them as just times. So you can play, if we put it on sync mode, so they're both left and right are linked, you can have this. And if you play with that, you can create some really, really crazy effects. Some like slapback delays and the Haas effect, all sorts of fun things you can do. So if I unlink these and have these set at slightly different times, check this out. If we have a very quick delay here, check this out. As opposed to maybe make it a little bit more emphasized. Kind of has that weird little glitchy effect. Let's make it a little bit longer. Makes it sound super fat, because you can't really perceive delays. Every human is going to have a threshold where they can hear like the shortness of a delay. It's usually around 20 milliseconds. So anything below that, it kind of is perceived as one sound. I believe it's called the echo point. Might be wrong on that. Feel free to correct me in the comments if you know the real term. But yeah, you can create some interesting like thick sounds by having it like around this point, as opposed to. So some really cool stuff you can do by unlinking it. And for example, if we were to be in a breakdown where we had, I'm going to copy the MIDI from this track over, have it here. So check this out. We could play with this delay. And there's that weird pitching effect, which is really, really cool. I like it a lot. And if you don't like that, you can turn off repitch, so you can play with this. So check this out. So you could automate that over time in your track for like breakdowns to create some really crazy, like, oh my God, something's about to happen. So you can have a lot of fun with those. Some other cool things you can do is stack multiple delays on top of each other. So let's put it back into sync mode and have it on, let's just have it as a dotted eighth load. So I can add in another delay afterwards in series, maybe turn the dry wet down a bit. And on this one, let's set this to 16th note, turn the link off, and have this on 2 and 4. So this is a different delay, but the initial delay signal is going to go into this next delay. So it will sound like this. Add some more reverb on the second one. That sounds pretty cool, especially put on ping pong mode. And we can even go an extra step and add another one. Maybe let's put this one before and have this on let's have this on 1 and 2 16th notes. So it's going to create a bit more of a like sort of stuttery effect here. Put the feedback up a little bit. Put the reverb up a bit, perhaps. So we've transformed this really basic sound into something that's actually pretty cool. And again, it's just an unfiltered saw wave. We can add in some detuning, perhaps, if we wanted to. And there we go. It already sounds pretty good. We could add in some filtering, like this, for example, like a little stab sound, like this. So now it'll sound like this. That depth and atmosphere coming from the delay is absolutely incredible, but because we've stacked multiple on top of each other, we can also play with the filtering as well. Like maybe you want this one to be a bit darker, this one to be a bit brighter, so just do something like that. Open up the filter a little bit more. That decay tail is so nice. Again, a really, really simple sound. Nothing crazy going on. You can also, if you want, add them in parallel. So if I press Command G, I can create an audio effect rack. So if I right click, I can create a chain. So this is going to be the dry one. So this is no delay. And I'm going to set this to 100% wet. And then I'm going to drag this one in. Set this one to 100% wet. And also drag this one in. And have this 100% wet. And now these are in parallel. So I'm just going to turn these down because these are going to be super loud. But we can mix these into however we want. So check this out. Which sounds pretty cool. Maybe I want a lot of feedback on this, or less feedback on this 16th note one, then more feedback on the dotted one. And more feedback on this one as well. And maybe have this one more in the lows. And then these more in the highs, a bit more full spectrum, and this one could be more thinner. Again, that decay tail is so cool. Now, let's talk about reverb. So with reverb, you can add them in as well, but this, like without the delays, let's just own in on this. So again, unfiltered saw wave with some reverb is going to sound pretty nice. Especially if we increase the decay a little bit. Maybe a little bit more, maybe about 3 seconds. Add so much more depth. Let's add a little low cut in, about here. That sounds pretty cool. And then what we could have is have all of these delays then going into this reverb here. So now this is with the reverb, which sounds absolutely crazy. So this sound here with the MIDI that I programmed for this track. Let's add a bit more release on this. But because there's so much delay and reverb going on, this is going to cause like the main part to be a little bit lost within so much depth. So in order to combat this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually have this in parallel as well. Now I'm going to create another chain. So this is our dry reverb chain here. I'm going to call this dry. Try. I tried. And what I'm going to do is sidechain this to itself. Here we go. And then open up the sidechain by dropping in drop a compressor in, open up the sidechain, and then this is 18 serum, so let's just sidechain it to itself. And then let's just do this on the reverb to start with. Let's have it so it's like aggressively being sidechained, and then I'm going to set the release to maybe about this much, so that when the sound is playing, the reverb is ducking, but then as soon as there's a space, the reverb comes back in. So check this out. Maybe a little bit too much on the release. And I can do this as well on the delays. So let's just drag and drop this same sidechain in. We could tweak this a little bit more, but I'm doing on every delay. So whenever the main pluck is playing, the rest of the signal is being ducked and the echo. So check this out. Maybe a little bit too much. Let's just dial it back a bit on these delays. So you still get that initial pluck sound coming through. Put a bit of resonance maybe. And again, this is just a super simple saw wave here. Like we could use a much nicer sound and this would sound better, but I'm just showing you how much a delay and reverb adds to your mix down. You have to be a little bit careful of adding too much reverb because it's going to cause clutter in your mix and there's going to be too much reverb, so you can't actually really focus in on any of the sounds. So that's why I have added in these sidechain compressors afterwards in parallel so that they are ducking and still letting the main sound pop through. Just be careful with reverb. You don't need as much as you think you do. But delays, you can go pretty crazy as long as you can still hear the main sound. So if we let's swap it out for a nicer sounding sound. Let's just choose a random preset, maybe this one. So without any of that spatial effects, it sounds like this. Super basic, but with these delays and reverbs, it sounds like this. Sounds absolutely killer. And something else you can do as well is, if you really wanted to, you could sidechain the reverb tail to the kick, but generally I would just sidechain to the kick anyway later, so it depends how you want to do it. But this can be a top tip here, so we could have this reverb also ducking with the kick, so check this out. There's a little bit more pumping and movement to it. Without it, it sounds like this. Let's add in the sub oscillator so we can have this a bit more full spectrum. Let's add in a saw wave. So go use some delays and reverbs to really create an amazing atmosphere in your sound, and you can get away with like having less instruments in your track because of the incredible depth you're going to get from delays and reverbs. And you should be adding them on pretty much every sound anyway in certain amounts, but you can really use them to your advantage. So there you have it. That's how you can use some delays and reverbs to create some amazing atmospheres in your track. It sounds incredible, like even with a super basic sound. So go ahead, use those echoes. They are my favorite, and everyone has them in Ableton. So go ahead, and also feel free to experiment with different delays, and if you've got a third-party one, try with that. But they're all the same. They all have the same controls on them, and I'd highly recommend doing that to get that really nice atmospheric depth to your tracks. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like this kind of content, then you should join my private Facebook community, Produce Like a Pro. We cover all sorts of topics. We have weekly live feedback calls where you can submit your music to me and I listen to it live and give you constructive, honest, and actionable feedback on your tracks. Plus, you can join the call and have a chat with me as well. And it's all totally free. I also post a lot of content in there which I don't post on YouTube, so you can see some extra training in there, and also network with like-minded producers who are also in the same boat. Link is in the description. Go join that now. If you enjoyed this video, drop a comment below, and if there's something that you want me to cover in a future video, then write it in the comments. I read and respond to every comment, so if there's something you're struggling with, I can help you out. Hope you enjoyed the video, and chat to you later.